How do I prepare my English learner for English-only classes at school? I've been asked this question recently by a friend of mine who is in this situation. She has her kid in the dual language program in a school here in Texas, where I live now. I know for those who have been following me for a while, it is a big relocation, taking into account that I used to live in Sydney, Australia. I lived there for 7 years, but prior to that, I lived in Ireland, I lived in the UK, I'm originally from Spain. Anyway, story for another day. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about that part of my life and why is it that I have to move so much. So coming back to today's topic, as I said, my friend has her kid in the dual language program, but unfortunately it will no longer exist in this particular school in the next year. I think they want to kind of concentrate the dual language program in a single school, make it sort of like a dual language hub. Plus, I think the school is getting small. There's a lot of new development in the area and they are at full capacity. So the option she's been given is either sending her kid to this new school and continue in the dual language program, or change him to English only and continue in the same school. And that is what she wants to do. This boy is definitely more fluent in Spanish than he is in English at the moment. He was not born in the US. He only came here like a year or a year and a half ago. They all speak Spanish in the house. And as I said, he is in the dual language program. And in the early years, he's in first grade, in the dual language program, there's way more focus on Spanish than in English. So I think he'll definitely qualify as an English learner, and I hope they see that in the school and give him extra support in the next year. That's precisely what I said to my friend. Insist that they put an EL program in place, push for it as much as you can, but before that, during this summer, reinforce English. Get him up to speed with that more than anything else. She was asking us specifically about learning to read in English and what she could do to get him ready for that. But my advice has been first and foremost, reinforce English with a strong focus on English vocabulary. So how can you do that, right? You can obviously pay for private lessons. That's one option, and a very good one. You can start watching kids' content in English on the TV. I mean, this is something that sometimes can frustrate kids if they don't understand what they're watching. They don't like it. I always suggest Peppa Pig because it's so easy to understand, right? But I think he's way over Peppa Pig. So maybe the challenge here will be finding something that he understands and he enjoys at the same time. Also, make sure you have the subtitles on when you're watching this content. This is something we've actually talked about before in this channel. So simple to do and so beneficial. Another idea is using an app for learning English for kids, and in that regard, I've been researching about the topic, and the app I'd suggest is Lingo Kids. Actually, it's not only for English learners. I actually have it myself, and my kids really like it. They really enjoy it, and they are not English learners. They've been in an English-Spanish environment since birth. They are bilingual. If you haven't heard of this app before, it's a good app to learn new vocabulary, to learn English while playing, to learn social skills, math, early reading. It's got games, songs, books. It's all really nicely done. It's very safe, very educational. Anyway, check it out yourself. I leave you the link in the video description for their 30-day free trial. But probably another day I'll create a more in-depth review of this app because I think it could be of interest for many people. Okay, moving on. What else can she do to reinforce English with her kid? Well, another thing that she can do, and you can do if you are in this situation, is trying to surround yourself by families and by other kids that speak English. This is very important. Kids learn playing with other kids, basically. And of course, another simple thing, but very powerful, is reading books in English. This is a great way to learn English, to familiarize yourself with English language structures, and to learn new vocabulary. In fact, this is something that everyone should do, native and non-native speakers alike. reading for at least 20 minutes a day to their kids from an early age. Not only because it's a bonding experience, also because books, even children's books, contain 50% more words that children are unlikely to bump into in their normal everyday life, in their regular conversations, on TV, etc. In other words, this is the most powerful tool to learn new vocabulary. So why do I say first and foremost, reinforce the language, make sure he's learning new words, that he's increasing his vocabulary? How can this help him learn to read, which is, as I said, the original question she had for me? Well, because I think that's actually the great advantage that the rest of the kids are going to have over him. By the way, with him, it's not that he doesn't speak any English or he doesn't understand at least simple basic English, but his vocabulary is going to be way smaller compared to monolingual kids in second grade. And contrary to, I think, widespread belief, the size of a person's vocabulary is not only related to reading comprehension, which would already be a big theme, right? But it's also related to the ability to decode words, to the ability to read. And I really want you to understand this in today's video. Look, imagine what happens when a beginner reader sees a familiar word in a book. I don't know, cat, dog, log, mat, whatever. As he or she starts to decode, he or she will recognize that those sounds make a very familiar word that he's heard or she's heard many times before. That is going to be of great help. And this is the great advantage native English speakers have. And among those native English speakers, the ones with larger vocabularies, the greater the advantage will be, right? Besides, strategies such as try out one sound, and if it doesn't work, you do not come up with a real word, try the other, that I don't know about you, but I've used so many times with letters that have two sounds, for instance, vowels, simply won't work if that word is not a part of his or her vocabulary. You see how extremely important vocabulary is and how it can give children a real advantage or a real disadvantage? So in my opinion, right now, that's the single most important thing for this kid. The second thing would be for the parent and ideally for the educator as well to understand the difference between reading in English and reading in Spanish. I think anyone in this situation can benefit from watching this video over here where I talk in great detail about that precisely. The third tip, the third suggestion I have is trying to learn about the English phonetic system yourself as much as you can. Actually, this is a tip I'd give to any parent, native and non-native speakers alike. That's the only way you can fully support your child with reading. Even if he or she goes to school, during the first school years, you're going to have to work a lot on reading with him or with her at home. So it's great to know what you're doing, right? Finally, make sure, as much as you can demand, that the school has a plan for your English learner. However, don't trust that they are going to do all the work for you. Don't even count on it, because you never know, right? Make sure you're doing things at home.